All right, distinguished former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Israel is doing the world a favor and the U.S. must give any help necessary to end Iran's nuclear threat. He joins us now. Mr. Pompeo, as I say, former distinguished Secretary of State and CIA Director. Mike, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it. I know you're overseas someplace. Let me just read from your great article in the New York Post today. We have a tear sheet on the full screen. Nothing short of the verifiable destruction of Iran's nuclear weapons program is acceptable, and it's in America's best interest to give Israel whatever it needs to succeed in this mission. So we should provide more help if necessary. That's your point.
Larry, thanks for having me on. That's exactly my point. They've done a pretty good job with the support that we've provided them to date. But if it turns out that to get to that end state, that verifiable destruction of their entirety of their program, not just the centrifuges that spin up the uranium, not just the tools that they use to build those systems, but every single stitch of it, including their plutonium capabilities. If we don't get rid of it all in a way that we can verify and be confident that they don't have any more of these systems and that we get a 10 or 15-year break from this threat against the United States of America, then we'll have fallen short of the necessary to keep Americans safe, let alone those living in the Middle East themselves, including the Israelis. We can do it. We have the capability to do it. No one's asked for the 82nd Airborne to land in Iran. They've just simply asked for some tools to continue to complete this mission, and it's deeply in our best interest to do so.
Well, your voice is very important in this discussion. Your voice is very important, and your piece in the New York Post is very important. You know, Secretary, also, there's this business about the ICBMs that's come up, intercontinental ballistic missiles. You don't need an ICBM. Even if you want to attack Israel, you don't need an ICBM. They're developing ICBMs for nuclear bombs to hit the United States. I think it's important that people know that, and shouldn't we go to destroy all of those ICBM facilities?
Yes, Larry, that's certainly included in the elements of their program. It's their enrichment capabilities, the tools that make those systems. It's their missile program, including this effort to get longer and longer missiles. You're right. Today, they have the capability to reach Israel. We've seen that. They can range Europe today. The work that they've been doing these last years has been to range even longer, which means Denver, New York, Washington, D.C., Miami. There's no way we should let a regime that has as a policy the destruction of the United States of America to get anywhere near having such a capability, especially today, especially when we have this opportunity, when it's very clear we can achieve this objective with relatively little risk, not none. There's always risk. Things can go sideways. It's war. But Larry, you know, I've watched some of the critics saying we shouldn't get involved. And my experience as a practitioner, you know, we served in the administration together. My experience as a practitioner working against Iran as they respect power and those who are willing to actually demonstrate that power, that's how you get to the right resolution. It is the weakness. It is the talk of the fact that we fear escalation that creates the real risk to the United States of America, not going after this in a way that is serious and thoughtful and strategic.
Right. There can't be any more appeasement. Xi Jinping is watching. Putin is watching. North Korea is watching. The other thing, you know, Mike, people talk about, well, it's a forever war or it's nation building. And I think that's just way off base. That's not what you're suggesting, is it?
Oh, goodness, not at all. As a former soldier, and there's very few of us that other than those who serve that want war any less than any other American. We know it's a true price. No, we're not looking at forever war. We're looking at a strategic campaign to eliminate a nuclear program from a hostile nation that wants to destroy our country. That's pretty straightforward. And your point earlier, it's not just this conflict that we can deter. President Trump was masterful at making sure that we had no new wars in his first administration. He didn't do so through weakness. He didn't do so through appeasement. He didn't buy other countries off. He demonstrated America's willingness to do the necessary to keep Americans safe. And so if we are able to support Israel and we do so effectively, I promise you're right. Whether it's Maduro in Venezuela or Chairman Kim in North Korea or Xi Jinping in China or Vladimir Putin himself, they will understand that this is a different administration and one that they will understand rightfully is prepared to do the necessary to deter them from harming our country.
If these pinpoint actions are taken, as you suggest, of course we have the capability, does the regime fall apart? Does the Iranian street come back? You know, does the diaspora, the Persian diaspora around the world come back and rebuild Iran?
boy, if we're successful, I hope the Iranian people will do the necessary, not frankly the necessary for us, but the necessary for themselves. It's hard to know when these things fall, Larry. I remember in 1989 when the Soviet Union began to deteriorate. We didn't know the day that wall would come down, but it did. It didn't do so just randomly. It did so because the United States was determined over time. And so we don't know what day the Iranian regime will collapse. We don't know exactly what the aftermath will look like, but I am confident that the people of Iran have the capability to self-govern with a lot more freedom and a lot more determination and a lot more prosperity for themselves. And the Israelis have given them a real window of opportunity. And I hope that the Iranian people a year or 2 years from now or a week from now are successful in getting that freedom back for themselves.
Yes, that's a terrific point. Terrific point. Who knows? History might move. The dominoes might fall in the right direction.
Amen.
Terrific stuff.